What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. So let's jump right in. The New Jersey Devils have found their next head coach. Sheldon Keefe will be the next head coach of the New Jersey Devils. He has been hired by the Devils. He has a 4-year deal to be your next head coach. Of course, he was recently fired by the Toronto Maple Leafs after yet another first-round playoff exit. Overall, I thought he was a decent coach in Toronto. A bunch of years ago, he took over after he was the top assistant until they fired Mike Babcock mid-season for, the team underperforming. In past years, had been able to get out of the first round, and they were underperforming in the regular season that year. And obviously, there was some other stuff that came out about him, obviously, dating back to his days in Detroit, and then stuff that happened when he was coaching Toronto. But Keith took over. Overall, I didn't think they did a terrible job. They won a lot of games in the regular season, weren't able to, turn it into postseason success. Of course, he had a couple of years ago them, blowing a 3-2 series against Boston in the first round. And last year, they get past Tampa in 6 games in the first round and then losing, in 5 or in 4 or 5 games to Florida, an 8 seed in the second round. And this year, losing in 7, you were down 3-1, come back, but then lose game 7 to the Boston Bruins, another first round exit. You saw after the game, you said, he said something after the game, saying like a lot of teams put the Maple Leafs in position to hurt the Maple Leafs or something like that, whatever the hell he said. Don't remember it word for word. But that Toronto team was not built very well. They spend a lot of money on all this offensive talent, and they have a lot of offensive talent on that team. Also, Mavis is obviously a guy who pushed 70 goals this year. I think he had 60 the year before, or it was last year. Mitch Marner is obviously a really good player. Tavares is getting older, still a good player. Nylander, all these guys, but they're not good defensively at all. Morgan Robbie's their only true good defenseman to me that is doing anything for you as an NHL team. And their goaltending is also horrible. It's terrible. You went into the year with Samsonov as a start. He was terrible, wasn't very good. You sent him back to the minors, and just Joseph Wolf stood up and played pretty well. And he got hurt, so Samsonov had to step into the playoffs, and he wasn't very good. And then, they did start well in the playoffs. He was playing pretty well, but then, he gets hurt in Game 6. He had to go Samsonov in Game 7. He actually played pretty well in Game 7. Just, Boston was just a little bit better. But he'll have less expectation with the New Jersey Devils. I mean, the Devils, they're a goalie away. They had some really bad goaltending issues this year and have for quite a while, honestly, where we haven't had a goalie since Broder retired, honestly. Mackenzie Black looked like he was going to be really good at one point, then injuries kind of ruined his career. And they've kind of just been in, goalie hell for a while. Last year you had Vitek Vanchuk, who was pretty good. And you also had Kira Schmidt, who flashed some brilliance in the playoffs. Vanchuk struggled in those first 2 games against the Rangers. Coach Lindy Ruff, who was coach at the time of the Devils, of course, goes to Kira Schmidt, who played pretty well. Devils ended up winning the series, but his play was kind of hidden by how bad the Rangers were offensively in that series. It's what got Drew fired, obviously. And then in the second round, he got lit up and eventually benched in the second round series against Carolina. He went into the year as the starter. Didn't look very good, and ended up going down to the minors. Then Vanacek got hurt, so most of the other starting Nico Dawes, who's a minor league goalie, as your starter. They ended up trading Vanacek for Capo Cochran in San Jose, was having a brutal year. Looked a little better in New Jersey because Devils are a little better defensively than that horrible defensive team in the San Jose Sharks. Was the reason they had the worst record in the National Hockey League this year, and maybe they were one of the worst defensive team I've ever seen in the National Hockey League. But still, nothing special. That wasn't great overall. They're clearly a goaltender away. Maybe another piece on the back end. They're still a very young team, so they still have a lot of things to figure out. They really need to pick a direction. Okay, last year you had a really good young team, and you went all in making the move to get who was it? The guy from the Sharks. At the trade deadline last year, you end up winning a playoff series against the New York Rangers, and you extend them in the offseason. You made the move for Toffoli. You give up a good young player and Igor Sharangovich and a draft pick to get Toffoli last offseason. You clearly were going all in on trying to be a contender, and it didn't work out. Kind of blew up in your face. You make the coaching change middle of the season, and but it did not go as planned for the New Jersey Devils this season. But I think he's a better coach than Lindy Ruff. Lindy Ruff, he had his run with the Buffalo Sabres a while back. He did a good job. They had a lot of success when they had Ryan Miller's goal and all that. But that was a while ago. It's pushing 10 years since he's been there. You had he went to Dallas, wasn't great, was out there in like 4 years. Then he took the assistant coach job with the Rangers, like their defensive coordinator kind of thing. Didn't do a great job there either, even as an assistant. I was surprised when the Devils hired him as the head coach a few years back. First year or two didn't look great. This was looking bad. You're thinking, all right, they're in a rebuild. And they got a much older coach. This doesn't seem like it's going to work. But last year, they obviously were a lot better than expected. Made the playoffs, were one of the best teams in the league. Won a playoff series. But this year, just they clearly just weren't. His time has come. I think it's time for him to retire. But I think he's a decent hire. He'll have less expectations in New Jersey, and if the Devils got a goalie, they could possibly do a decent job, and he might have a shot of actually winning more than one game in the second round. So, pretty good hire. And also, the Los Angeles Kings also gave Jim Hiller the full-time head coach job. He got promoted and they made him the interim coach. During the season, and overall did a pretty good job. He got them to the playoffs, but that's as far as they went. But he did a pretty good job. He got a 3-year extension to, I believe it's what he got, to stay on as the head coach of the Los Angeles Kings. So he's still in LA, but let's talk about the hockey game from last night. Florida Panthers defeated the New York Rangers in Game 1, 3-0. In Game 1, they were up 1-0 most of the game. They got 2 empty net goals late to pull away and win 3-0. A 24-save shutout for Sergei Bobrovsky. First time the Rangers were shot in the playoffs at home in 26 games. Last time was back in 2016, 8 years ago. So, been a long time. Rangers, they came out super flat. They had just 10 shots on goal through the first 2 periods. They took like 3 penalties in the first 2 periods. It's not good enough. You cannot come out flat like that. Yes, I know. Their series ended, like 2 days before the Florida series, and then you still had to wait 3 days. So maybe you're a little rusty, on not having played in like 4 or 5 days. But the Florida Panthers hadn't played in 3 days either, and they came out and they looked just fine. So not an excuse. You got to come out and play better than that. Overall, Strickland played another phenomenal game. Just that play though late in the third period, entirely he came out and he passed it right to the Florida Panthers play, and then obviously Lafreniere, with the poor play in front of him, that tipping it into his own man on accident. It was a complete accident, obviously, but just a disastrous play to end that game. The Rangers in third period played a little bit better. We're starting to come on a little bit. We're get some chances, but also they had a lot of chances in the third period, and they couldn't bury one of them. At some point, you gotta, bury one of the chances. Like even like in the second period, at the end of that period, had that one timer that Mika, missed me on, and in the third period, they had like that big scrum in front of there where they somehow couldn't score. Then they hefted out, they hit the post. Like you gotta at some point, put one in the back of the net. And you obviously can't score if you don't win. You obviously can't win if you don't score. So they lose 3-0. I'm confident they win Game 2 because they looked a little better in the third period. But 10 shots in 2 periods, that's just pathetic. You're not gonna win hockey games doing that. But Florida takes Game 1. Going back to Igor Shesterkin, like that was a very poor play he made late in that third period. That's something that he's got to do a better job. And then also, if you look at Sergei Bobrovsky's numbers, he's a very good goalie. Coming in, he had GAA, I think, of like 237. His save percentage was like 902. Well, that tells me he's a guy. If defense is playing well in front of him and teams are getting a ton of shots against him, he's as good as it gets in this league. But if you start getting 30, 35 plus shots against him, that's when he starts to soften up. So you got to get shots against this guy. It's weird. The Rangers haven't gotten a ton of shots on goal throughout the whole playoffs. They've had 25 shots or less in 7 of the 10 games heading into this game, and they've only lost 2 games in the whole playoffs. You swept the Washington Capitals. Obviously, Capitals were lucky to even get into the playoffs. The Rangers are a much better hockey team, and you beat the Hurricanes in 6 after you're up 3-0 at one point in that series. I talked about, I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, the Vancouver Canucks, who of course lost in 7 to Edmonton. Yes, they had their third string goalie in there, but also they averaged 21 shots a game in the entire playoffs. Stuart Skinner was in that lineup. He's one of the worst goalies all time in playoff history. If you look at his save percentage in his career in the playoffs, and you had like 18 or 19 shots against him in Game 7. Like, I know you're down your best goal scorer, Brock Besser, who had the blood clot issues. We had to miss Game 7. Would have probably missed the rest of the postseason. But like, you gotta test these goalies. Florida, their one flaw is their defense. They're a little better this year. The whole reason last year they were only the 8 seeds because they were so bad defensively, but the reason they were able to get hot. They got hot more than they got hot at the right time. They were always good offensively. They just couldn't defend, and then they were starting Alex Lyon the first 2 games, and he looked horrible. And eventually, the coach said enough. Plumbury said enough of this, put Sergei Bobrovsky in there, and Bobrovsky got hot. They're a team that can score if anybody, and you had a hot goalie. It's kind of what you need in the playoffs. And the defense held together enough. It wasn't fantastic, but when you're scoring 3-4 goals every game and your goalie is just standing on his head, your defense doesn't need to be that good, to be honest. And now this year they're a phenomenal hockey team. They handled I don't remember they played in the first round, but they handled that no problem. And then in the second round, they beat Boston in 6 games, and now you're off to the Rangers. Well, this should be a great series. Hope the Rangers come out a little better in Game 2 for us Ranger fans. But yeah, Florida takes Game 1 at Madison Square Garden. We're gonna talk some basketball now. I may have a caller coming in. I'm not sure. My friend's actually he has a long drive that he's doing right now. He might call in. I'm not sure if we're calling on my Squarespace or we're calling over the phone. So if at any point I'm looking at my phone, I think I've been doing throughout. That's why. And but let's talk some basketball now. And again, just keep an eye out on that for a possible phone call. But today we're doing continuing the NBA All-Season Outlook series, and today's team is the Toronto Raptors. So Raptors obviously a tough year. You kind of completely tore them a team this season. They're heading into a rebuild. You trade OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks and returning to RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly, and the Pistons second round pick. Of course, the first pick in the second round, so they're the worst team in the NBA this year. And then you trade Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers. You got 3 first-round picks in return, and then you got a couple kind of not so great players. You got Bruce Brown back, although he's a pretty good player. Then Jordan Nwora. And I think New Orleans jumped in, threw in Kira Lewis. I think they cut Kira Lewis. Jordan Nwora, not sure if he's still on the roster at all. Although he finished the team, but now he's a free agent. And then also they still have Bruce Brown, though. Apparently they're expected to trade him for the end of the month, which makes a lot of sense because he's a guy. He's got a $23 million team option for a team like Indiana. You might as well decline that. So they're probably gonna try and trade him before have to make a decision on that. That would be my guess is what their goal is, but they can either do that or they can exercise it and trade him. But again, you gotta make sure to be able to trade him. If you don't get the offer you like and you're stuck with him, that's something you don't want to do either. Although you would save a lot of money for a team that might not be super active in free agency, so you're trying to let these kids play. You want to get something for them. You're trying to prioritize draft picks. So looking at what they're up against, their top free agents are Gary Trent, Emmanuel quickly is a restricted free agent. Those are the top 2 guys who are the only guys I have to worry about. They have the 19th pick and then the first pick in the second round. In this draft, I think the Spurs have their pick from the I think that actually might have been the DeMar DeRozan trade down Kawhi years back. But they have a lot of money to spend if they want. They're almost $55 million clear above that first tax apron. They have looking at their draft picks next year, they may have to give the Spurs a pick. If it's outside the top 6, they'll give it to it. But if it's top 6, they get to keep it. The good news is they have Indiana's pick this year. They have Indiana's pick next year. Indiana doesn't have a top 4 pick, but considering they're their team, that's very unlikely. And then as long as they are in the top 6, they'll have their own pick. Otherwise, I'll have to give it to the Spurs. That's in 26 and 20, and then 27. They'll have their pick in most, and Indiana's pick unless they're outside the top 4. Then by 20 and 29, they have their own pick. They have a decent amount of picks. Have a lot of young players on the squad. RJ Barrett's only 24. Scotty Barnes only 23. Grady Dick, he just drafted this. He was only 21. Ochai Agbaji, he got in the trade with Utah. The trade deadline's only 24 years old. My suggestion is I give these guys a full year. Obviously, you got RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, who I assume they're going to resign in the middle of the season. You got Ochai Agbaji in the middle of the season. Scotty Barnes is obviously still young. Grady Dick has only got 1 year of play under his belt. Give these guys another year and see what you got with the squad. If they go out next year and they win 19 games, okay, maybe we need to make some changes. Either way, they're not going to be that good. But if next year they go out there and all of a sudden they're pretty competitive and they compete maybe they make the play-in or they just miss the play-in, you end up with, let's say, you end up winning 35 games and just missing the play-in. All right, we were pretty competitive. I mean, we're not as far off from winning as we thought. So see what happens, but I would definitely resign quickly. He just record, so you obviously can control that a little bit more than guys who are unrestricted. Gary Trent, not be a bad guy to resign. Worst case, maybe you try and work on a Simon trade if you think you're going to lose her or you don't want to resign, but want to try and get something for him. They should really just finish off just the tear down of this team. You have Bruce Brown, who's got, like I said, the $23 million team option. You gave Jakob Perl that big deal last year. He's due $19.5 million next year. He's due $19.5 million as well in 2026, and he's got a player option worth $19.5 for 2027. He gave him 4 for 78 prior to last year starting. That was overpay at the time. Prior to the season starting, the contract that they gave him. You look to move him. You have Kelly Olynyk, who you got in that trade with Ochai Agbaji as well. He's another guy who could be a solid rotation piece, as a big for a contender. He's due $12.8 million next year, $13.4 the following, and he's a free agent. So that's next year they gave him a 2-year, $26.2 million extension very recently. So I thought they would have given him that if they didn't have plans on keeping him for at least the next year or two. At least now he's you have the ability as a contract that is tradable. Maybe that's why I did it. Like, all right, this guy is the guy who's going to be with us in 3, 4, 5 years down the line. But maybe, all right, come the trade deadline next year, he could be a guy like teams look at like, all right, he's a solid big off the bench. We need to have a big come off the bench. He could be a guy to be traded because the contract isn't too bad. We have a call in actually. It's going to be Neil. I haven't heard from a while. Neil, how's it going?
What's going on, man?
Not much. I just realized that we were talking about your Toronto Raptors. So let me ask you, Neil. So do you expect anything from the offseason? Because if they want to, they could spend a bunch of money, but obviously they are going into a rebuild. So what are your expectations from the Toronto Raptors this coming offseason?
Okay, well, great time. My part showed up at the right time.
Exactly.
So just quickly on that front, we did actually announce today that Toronto officially gets a WNBA team if they're going to finish.
That's right. Yeah, that's very exciting. It's happening in 2026?
Yeah, exactly. And somewhere, I think they said expected by 2025, but we'll see. It's not determined yet, but somewhere there between those 2 years. And they're going to play games in Montreal, Vancouver, and across the country. So it'll be kind of like Canada's team.
Oh, okay.
Play other locations. I just want to say that quickly because that is kind of like the hot news today. Here in Toronto, that was a press conference that happened a few hours ago. So quickly about the Raptors, as you were asking me, great question because we saw that the Raptors actually pulled off what I think might have been the biggest trade of the NBA season before the deadline when they went and got OG Anunoby, which I know you love because you're a Knicks fan, and we know
Oh, yeah.
how well the Knicks played with Anunoby in the lineup. I think it was something like 25-3 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
26-5. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the exact record?
They were 26-5 with him in the lineup.
That's amazing. That's so good for them. And that was a great trade because that trade was a win-win for both sides.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
It was a very fair trade, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For those who thought that Precious June was going to do anything, we saw that he did contribute later on when, they lost Robinson. So, good trade for the Knicks. For the Raptors, I was happy with it because they get R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel quickly to go along with Scotty Burns, be able to make that their core. So, Scotty Burns and, Emmanuel quickly and Barrett are the new core. And so they can kind of build around that. And they did do that around the deadline. They went and they traded some of those first-round picks that they got from Indiana for the Siakam deal, which we've seen how great Siakam's been as well. And, they used one of those picks to send to Utah to get OJ Anunoby, which he was a 16th pick, I believe, in 2022. So now we have the 16th pick in the 2022 draft. Or was he the 14th? I think he was the 14th, correct me. And then the year after we selected Grady Dick, the 13th pick. So we have those two players right there that are developing. And so I know that it's bleak on the draft front where they've lost a lot of picks. Like they only have the 19th and the 31st in the first round. So that's probably not adequate enough, but they are going to be trading Bruce Brown. We've known this already since they got him in the deal.
Oh, yeah.
Or Siakam, right? So they didn't do it at the deadline. I guess they were getting offers that they really felt were, feasible. So now they're going to move them. They're going to use it to their advantage, hopefully to their advantage at the draft and try to move up. Maybe they pair him up with one of the picks, or maybe they trade him for a pick. Because I know that the Lakers want him. I know that competing teams want him. Like, I think that Bruce Brown would have definitely helped the Denver Nuggets in their playoff run this year. I think he saw the loss that, was left behind with him not being there. Because he was kind of like the garbage guy. He was doing a lot of, the odd numbers that you need and, like, a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet, which really helped them with their run last year. And their run despite those flaws, right? So we see that. I think the Raptors, with that 19th to 31st pick, I'm wishful thinking here, but I want a big man. The Raptors, that's obvious. Like, I think that this screams out to everybody that watches that team. They need a serious big man. They did go and get Kelly Olynyk off the bench for Jakob Poeltl, which is great. Like, I'll be happy with that all season long. But if you got a third big in the mix, it maybe helps you. And I think you can find that in the draft. There are several good picks. I think that Flipowski, is it Flipowski? You can help.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you're right. Flipowski, I think from Duke.
Flipowski, I can't pronounce it correctly. I think the Polish name. So he's, I know, to be like slated to be ahead of Zach Edey, which I think over here you got to have your eyes on a team like Zach Edey. I know everybody's saying he's not going to be a great NBA player. He's not going to show up the way he did in the college game on the NBA floor. But he is slated to go in the first round, and I was checking the projections from NBA.com. And so the Raptors are projected to take Filipowski with that 19th pick. And then projected at 24, which is the Milwaukee Bucks, is Zach Edey. So they would, I think that would be a nice fit too.
Yeah.
So I think you need a big man in this draft, and I would take both of those players. I would take Filipowski or Filipowski, whatever one it is in terms of pronunciation, and Zach Edey. And I would get them both. And then I would focus my sights on a point guard in the draft to come, the one that's coming backwards. So it's obvious that they lost out in that deal for the Jakob Poeltl deal with the San Antonio Spurs because San Antonio got 2 first-round picks out of that, and they were able to catch it on their 8th pick. It was, I think, between 1 and 6 that it was protected for the Raptors, if that was the case. And they finished with the 6th worst record, and they didn't get that. They got, I think, the 8th pick, and then obviously, Spurs are able to claim that. So the Spurs look good, though. They've got, the 8th pick, and I believe the 4th pick.
Yeah,
so
they're in good shape.
Yeah, so that deal now benefits them. They had to go through a couple of bad years. Obviously, they got Wembanyama, after that trade for Jakob Poeltl, but they were able to cash in a couple first-round picks, which are now going to help them nicely because I think now you start to build around Wembanyama. But going back to the Toronto Raptors, obviously, if you're talking about building around a player here, it's Scotty Barnes. And I think you need to go, and if you can't get someone in the draft that's a really good big, you try to find that through free agency, which is never really a lucky situation. Obviously, like centers stand out who they are. We know who they are. They're a big name in the market. We know where the solid time of usually by the time free agency starts. But that's what I would do from the Raptors, and I think you need to add some depth at the point guard position. I don't know if you can do that this year. If you sign maybe somebody, a veteran, like I think the veteran behind Emmanuel quickly is good. And obviously we know that Malachi Flynn, he got traded from the Raptors. He ended up with the Pistons all over. I think he went from the Went from the Raptors to the Knicks, and then over the Pistons. Then he had what, a 55-point game off the bench.
Yeah, Malachi Flynn. He had 50 in a game. They still lost. Pistons still lost the game. They dude had 50. They still lost.
Because
Yeah.
like he obviously wasn't getting a chance to try on. They gave him a good run. He had 2 years here to try to get something going. They sent him to the Knicks. The Knicks were high on him, and then he ended up in Detroit, and Detroit got him off the bench and got that 50-plus point game, whatever it was. But I just, having lost him, and I was never happy with him either way, but I rather would see them maybe just sign a veteran for now and then focus their sights on a point guard in the draft coming up, because unless, depending on how it all plays out, right? I think they need to get a big in this draft, and I think that I'm happy with the pieces that we have going in the future. I think that with Obagi and Dick, those are some, good supporting players who are still going to be developing for the next couple of years. We have a lot of upside and promise. And I think that the core is pretty good. We've already seen what they could do. RJ Barrett, I think, is trying to revive himself over here. I know his field goal percentage got a lot better over here in Toronto. And I think he's a little bit more comfortable being back home. So he played well, I would say. I think we're happy with what we saw from him after the trade. Yeah. And then Emmanuel quickly as well. Like, you can't be happier with a dude like that who's going to be a starting point guard. Great three-point shooter. Emulates a lot of the game that you see from Tyrese Maxey. They're kind of agreed. They went to the same school. They're not. Was it Kentucky? Yeah, they're very similar players. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of what I was excited about when the Raptors made that OG Anunoby trade. That they compared quickly to a Tyrese Maxey, and I'm like, well, look at Tyrese Maxey now. So like I'm not thinking he'd be exactly like Tyrese Maxey, but if he's anything along those lines, which we've seen, like he has been running the point, and I think he was challenged by Coach Darko to try to get more assists. And I think he ended up having an 18 assist game. That was near the end of the season. But it was so rough at the end of the season that I wasn't paying attention anymore. Oh, yeah. Once our fantasy season was over, and we get in the playoffs. And I think the playoffs, actually, I want to say, Jake, have been absolutely fabulous this year. Yeah, they've been really good. Yeah, I think we've seen great matchups, just in the West like we do every year, but now in the East. And I think that I'm surprised. I have to say, I'm so surprised that Indiana. I really didn't feel Indiana was going to go this far. They finished 6th in the East. So they didn't look very powerful even after the Siakam trade, but they really figured it out after. But I still feel, and I'm not saying this, and I'm biased because I'm a Raptors fan, and Siakam was a Raptor, 2-time All-NBA, 2-time All-Star, multiple player champion here. No one seems to know that he had done all that until he got to Indiana. Just the way that it's like, they're all talking about him now, and it's like he was always that good of a player. And I think he's carried a lot of the load for Indiana in a lot of the games. And I think that was a huge trade for them. So I think those, to me, are the 2 pinnacle trades of the year. Are the Anunoby trade, Raptors sending him to New York, and then obviously Siakam going to Indiana. They got the 3 first-round picks that they were slated to get. They traded one to Utah, got OJ Anunoby. And I think that the table's set. I think they just, like, the draft is bleak, though, and we can admit that. The 19th and 31st. And last year, what did they have? They had the 13th, and they might have had something in the second round. The year before that, they had a second rounder, which was Koloko, and Christian Koloko. And I think he was like the 30th pick, and he's no longer with the team anymore. Yeah. And then who's the dude that they had at point? I keep forgetting his name, but he had a big March Madness. Oh, Noel. No, yeah, right. Marquise Noel, I think his name was. Marquise Noel, yeah. So he looked good, and we were excited about him. I was concerned about his height being 5'7". I'm only 5'6", so I know. Same here. I was concerned about him being a point guard at that height. Although we've seen the likes of Muggsy Bogues be successful at 5'3" and Spud Webb at 5'8". So I'm just saying basically that I think that there's some concern about the depth in our point guard position because we don't have that. And even if it was like a veteran, like say Golden State decides, okay, we're going to walk with Chris Paul, I would take Chris Paul over here just to help a little bit on the veteran side of things. I think Golden State keeps him, but I don't know what they're going to do over on the I thought about that quickly too. I think we spoke about that last summer. Everything. At that point, we had realized that they were going to be falling apart if things didn't go a certain way fast, which is exactly what happened. And I don't think people out there should be surprised that Klay Thompson doesn't hit the level that he used to hit back in the day when there was Splash Brothers. Still a great player, still a great shooter, but he's not going to be your second option. No. That was the mistake that Golden State had in their mind going into the season. He's no longer the number 2 dude. Honestly, I thought the number 2 guy should have been Wiggins, but now it's got to be Kuminga. I think that's. Oh yeah, he stepped up big time. What are your thoughts basically on the Raptors and just the playoff picture? We can go to the playoff picture too. I'm sure you have an agenda of what you want to discuss. So if we're talking too long on my front, cut me out by all means. Oh no, jump on here. Yeah, you're good, man. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to get on with you. I was listening there for a little bit. I got a chance to get on, so I got to get on there with them. Just a lot of the times, I actually finished work early today, so I was able to get on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm usually at work when you're on, so I'm glad that you got on here today. But yeah, what are your thoughts with the Raptors and what you think they need to do?
I honestly think they should just let this thing run its course because, like, a lot of these guys, they kind of just got there. Like, they only got RJ in the middle of the season. They got Quickly in the middle of the season. They got Agbaji in the middle of the season. Scotty Barnes is still really young. Gray Digger's still really young. So, they haven't had a big opportunity to really gel yet. So, I think they should just, opposed to, jumping the gun and going after anybody, I think they should, just see what they have with this team. Yeah, I think I said it right before you came on. If they go out next year and they win 21 games, like, okay, we're not that close to winning what we need to do. They have a couple of draft picks over the next few years. The draft will not be as bad as it is this year. This draft class is kind of weak. It's very thin this year.
It's not a great draft, but I think there's some players in there that have the potential to develop into great players over time, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, continue. As you were saying, I agree with all the points that you're making. I'll touch on some of them as you're wrapping up.
Cool. So yeah, but you never know. Maybe next year this team really gels and these guys like Barrett and Quickly and Gradick come into their own, Scotty Barnes. Maybe you win 35 games next year, and maybe you sneak into the play-in. You just missed the play-in, and then you're like, okay, we're actually not that far from winning than we thought. We may need one or two more pieces. These guys just keep gelling, keep developing, and we'll be a good team. And at that point, maybe at that point you start looking for some veterans on some bigger contracts to try and help out. But I think they should see this out next year. It wouldn't be a bad idea to try and flip some of these veterans for some picks, like a guy like Bruce Brown. They could either exercise his option and trade him, or they could. That's probably what they'll do. Or maybe you trade him before you have to make that decision and let somebody else make that decision on him. Could a guy like Pearl or Olynyk get traded? Because Pearl you got for $19.5 million this year, next year, and then he's got the player option. And then
I think Olynyk they want to keep because they did give him a.
Yeah, they just gave him an extension.
Yeah, so I could see Pearl getting moved. And I agree with you on that front. And that's why I say they have to get a big man, because if they draft a big man, then that enables them to do that, free up that salary, get something in return. But they did shoot themselves in the foot with this draft. They were desperate for Pirtle when they made that deal, and everybody thought they were going to be sellers, not buyers, which they should have been. They probably should have moved Van Fleet at that deadline. They lost for nothing, right? So that was a desperate move because, Masai admitted after he traded away OG and Siakam, he said, when he was talking about that timeline, at that time when he traded for Pirtle, he's like, I believed in this group and I felt that they had a chance and just needed a big man that could, start for us. And he was right. It was too little too late. And I think that, it's crazy. I think that you see that these guys are now playing very well, like Anunoby and Siakam, their new respective teams, New York and Indiana respectively. And I just think that those guys still have that ability over here, but there was something obviously by the time this season was rolling around that Siakam wasn't happy about. He wanted to stay here, and he was trying to get a long-term deal done last season, but they only offered him 3 years at $123 million, and he didn't like that. He actually was offended, and I think that left a bad taste in his mouth because he wanted to stay here long-term, and that's not going to happen anymore. I think he is going to stay in Indiana, but it would have been great if, this would have been the ideal thing, because when they actually made the move with Anunoby, I was hoping they were going to keep Siakam and sign him again, because then we might actually have a shot at making the playoffs again, a 1-6, maybe a 6 seed. But I'm not worried about that either. I'm okay with letting Siakam walk, but it's I don't know how certain. I know he said he wants to sign in Indiana, and I know Anunoby said he's going to sign in New York. But those two guys are going to be two of the biggest free agents, and I don't know if it's going to be just an easy thing. How do you feel? Because I know you're a Knicks fan, and I know that these deals are not being made without that verbally being committed. With Anunoby and Siakam saying, yes, I would like to be there long term, because then they don't make that deal otherwise. Because that was something that these teams needed to know before acquiring these stars. But yeah, I'm confident Anunoby is signing a deal there. I know he's going to be in New York. I think South Body. I've seen interviews of him hanging out in the back of the limo discussing when he got to New York and all that. I think he's staying there. He's obviously the number 3 guy there. I don't think you look at him as a guy who's going to put up, but he can do this. But you don't look at him as the 20-point scorer. I think you're looking at him as a guy who's going to give you double digits. He's going to hit from 3, and he's going to give you D. The D that kind of, you can admit, the defense that he plays definitely altered New York's style to make them so much even better. And you know what? It's such a shame, man, for New York. Like, I'm not a huge Knicks fan. I can tell you that I honestly wanted them to win the title with Patrick Ewing when they had gone from 8th to 1st that year. And then get to the finals and then they lose Ewing. They had this amazing run from being the 8th seed to get to the finals and they lose Ewing. I would love to have seen them win that title because they deserved it. But I think the New York Knicks, man, I feel so bad for them this year because if they had their full arsenal,
I know.
they're in the finals. I think they're in the finals.
If they had their full team, I think they would have been. There would have been too. The Celtics have looked human.
And the way they were winning games, and if you look at the fact that these guys are winning without Randall, and even like I'll say Robinson because he was amazing for being here for you guys, and he was gone for a good chunk. And then and then you went and got Anunoby, and you still lost him for 20 games or so. And just the number of injuries and the significant players that aren't there. And then Hartenstein, that guy stepped his game up huge. He's a completely different player now. And that, I think, was part of the reason that you guys, one of the big reasons with you guys winning and the core of, the college core, right? With Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo, those guys, that's an amazing story. I didn't think those three guys could do what they're doing. And Brunson doesn't hurt his wrist, fracture his wrist, then I think they can win that game.
Yeah, they had gotten within because they were getting dominated most of the first half. They got 20 for most of it. They got within 15 going to half, and at one point they were only down 8 in the third quarter, and then Brunson gets hurt at that point. It's all right, at that point you literally had 5 players, and Josh Hart was playing hurt.
Yeah, and those guys have been great. So you look at that roster, and you get everybody back healthy, and I don't think they're trading Randall. I know I posted at the end of the day with the rumor. I think that's going to be one of the biggest rumors because they were winning without him, and everybody kept talking about that. And I think that you keep him. But if you do move him, you have to get pieces that really for sure solidify your run to a title run. And they did a significant job and an amazing job. Who's the GM of the Knicks? He's hit all the corners.
Leon Rose.
Did a great job. The Anunoby deal, nailed it. All the deals after that, during the deadline and all that, all the support players that he got, did a great job. He got Alec Burks, right? He also had Bogdanovich. Unfortunately, he got injured too. Think about it. If you have those guys healthy on this whole entire team, everybody, they beat the Celtics because Porzingis isn't in that line. So I think they need Porzingis to get to the finals. I think that Indiana, I can't believe that they lost in regulation. They should have won that game in regulation. They had it in their hands. And they kind of gave it away in overtime. So that was too bad to see that they lost that game because they didn't steal that one. I think if they have a chance of getting the finals. But they surprised me too. I didn't think Indiana was actually going to beat New York. I really thought New York was going to look them good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if in Game 3 Nemar hit that freaking prayer, if he hasn't hit that, Knicks probably win that game. They would have won the series in 5.
Yeah, if you're a lucky shot for sure. Absolutely, that wasn't prayer, 100%. And that's what I mean. I don't think that's the thing. Unfortunately for the Knicks, with all the injuries, that became a 7-game series, and that's what happened. They have their full arsenal. They're definitely going. I think they get to the third round against Boston, no question, and they get Boston a good run. Seriously, even if you go into next season, what I'm excited about if I'm a Knicks fan is the front court you guys have with Randall, Hartenstein, Robinson, all three of those guys up front. Because you're seeing 3 bigs doing big deals. In Minnesota, you got Gobert, Cat, and Reed, right? Mm-hmm. One guy's a 6th man of the year, other guy's the defensive player of the year. So let's look at what those guys are doing. That's what I was saying. I would like the Raptors to get a big body center and a guy who can manufacture in the paint, and blocking shots defensively, getting defensive rebounds and offensive rebounds, and garbage buckets in the paint. Getting the line would be great if he could be a good shooter. That's the kind of guy. Because you get 3 bigs over here. I know that Holden and Hurdle aren't your most elite centers, but if you even a Zach Edey, I think Zach Edey is going to be successful. I don't know if he dominates the NBA or whatever have you, but I think he's going to be successful enough in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to be an All-Star. I think he could be one.
He could be like a Boban Marjanovic kind of player.
Okay, you have a better insight on this because you're down there and I'm up here. So when it comes to college ball, we start really talking about it around February and it's not all year long. We don't get a good look on it. I have one CBS college station, but it shares all kinds of college sports, not just basketball. But I wish there was just a CBS college basketball station so I could see it all year long. I could stream stuff too, but you know what I mean? Basically, when it comes to the knowledge of that, I get it up here around February, March. So, so give me your insight on it because you probably have a really good track on him being down there and following college sports a lot more than I do with basketball. So what are you hearing? where does he end up, like, in the projection of an NBA career? Like, how do we see it? Like, that was a comparison, because we like Marjanovic, then there's no hope. He sits on a bench all the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, his ceiling, he maybe could be like a less athletic, like Valanciunas, maybe. That's probably his ceiling. I think he'll be more like a Marjanovic type of player. I just don't think he'll be able, because he was pretty dominant in college. There's not that many big men in college. The NBA, the players are so much bigger, so much taller. There's so much more big men. Every NBA team has at least one or two guys that are 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet tall. In college, there's only a couple of those just across the whole Division One. So I think he'll be a little bit overmatched. But if the kid can play, the kid can play. So maybe he could be like a poor man's Valanciunas or a Marjanovic, but I'm not super high on the kid.
You know, that's a good actual take, because when I was on the NBA website and I was checking that mock draft, and that was actually what his comparison was with Jonas Valanciunas. And I think Jonas Valanciunas, like, I would love to have him back here. He was a solid center. He's not an all-star center, but he's a solid NBA center. And, you know, I mean, I remember him being a skinny dude over here and getting built up, and, like, it took him a little while to get his game going. So I can understand that being maybe the concern for a team that drafts him. Like, how long would it take for he to develop and really become a solid NBA season? Because that was for him, and solid NBA season for Valanciunas took about 5 seasons, you know, before he really got. And then when he got there, we traded him to Memphis, you know, and then he had to kind of find his way again, like between Memphis and New Orleans. And New Orleans has a good team, in terms of what we see them do.
Yeah, so healthy.
So yeah, I mean, and then how do you feel about in terms of like what you're seeing in the playoffs? I know we talked about the Knicks, and then of course, like, how do you feel? Like, I just think that this has been a great playoff.
Oh yeah, it's been very fun to watch.
It's been great. The games that we're seeing, right? How many have gone to 7? Right? We've seen some of the series go to 7, and then obviously the champs have been knocked out of the playoff run. So, and Minnesota's been exciting. I think Dallas does beat Minnesota, though, even though I want Minnesota to win it all.
You think Dallas is gonna win?
I feel that, because you know what? I think Kyrie's the difference maker, man. I think it's like, that's the thing with Kyrie. I'm probably not going to get a lot of people agree with me on this. I'm not trying to get them to, but I do feel Kyrie can be just as clutch as Steph Curry. Steph Curry was the clutch player of the year. I just feel
Kyrie has been clutch in the past. That is true.
You know, when he's got the ball and something needs to be done and he's doing it, like, it's like a 99.9% chance that he's doing it. Like, and I do see him miss shots and whatnot, but it's just like, whenever it counts, like, he hit a 3 last night, which was a huge difference maker, which kind of set them apart to win that game. I'm like, it's more or less just like, I think it's him that is the difference maker, because he's got the experience. He's won a title. He's gone the distance, and, you know, with LeBron, of course, and then in Cleveland. And so I think now that's the thing about Doncic and him, is it's such a great duo that, like, it's the word Doncic leans on him a little bit now, even though Doncic is still going to be playing great and doing great things, and he actually played defensively last night. And so, you know what I mean? Like, I think that Kyrie's just going to be difference maker. I think he was last night. And so, you know what I mean? I think that it's going to be great. Though, and obviously, Anthony Edwards didn't have an Anthony Edwards type game. So that was a huge factor too. But what are your thoughts on what we're seeing in the Final Four? Where do you have these teams?
Oh yeah, that Celtics Pacers series looks like it's going to be very exciting. You got two teams that score a lot of points. Indiana really threw that game away in Game 1, so. But if they can win Game 2, that's not a bad spot to be in. Obviously, they're an inferior team, but if they get a split at TD Garden and you know Boston really didn't play that well in Game 1, and then if you win Game 2, like, all right, if we take at least one at home, that all of a sudden you have a shot to win. But if you go down 2-0 going home, you really have to win both games in Indiana. So that was a really tough loss in Game 1, but that was a phenomenal game. You know, there's a lot of firepower in that series, and then to Minnesota and Dallas, that should be a good series as well. And a lot of people are picking Minnesota to finish them off pretty quickly, and I do have Minnesota win the series. But again, there's a lot of top players in that series, and that I think that could be a 6 or 7 game series as well.
That's what I think. Like when you said you think that Dallas can win. That's what I think. I think it's a buzzer beater in Game 7. Like, I think it's like that. I think it's going to be like that. Because, like, you know, I don't know what the season series was between these two teams, but I don't know how much they've seen each other, and I think that there's
Can't be a whole lot. I mean, they're in the same conference, but they don't. I don't think they play that much.
Yeah, I think they might have played like 2 matchups this year. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm guessing, right? So, like, basically, like, you usually go visit the team once, and then they come to your home court once, so you know that they play these twice. But I just think that they have this is going to be probably the best series we've seen so far. I think there's the excitement of Anthony Edwards break. But here's the thing: Cat needs to step up a little bit more. Like at the end of that game last night, he hit a couple threes, and then he did something in the paint. He got like a bucket there, and I think he might have blocked the shot. It's like, dude, like this is still your team. I'm glad you actually recognized this year that Anthony Edwards needs to be the main man for you guys to be successful. That's working, but it doesn't mean that you're taking a step back. You're still being the same player. Like he needs to be more aggressive and be the Cat of old still, along with what Anthony Edwards was doing, for them to win it all, I think. And I'd love to see, that's who I want. I want either one of those teams to win it all. And I would say I want Minnesota because I love Anthony Edwards. And then I just think that like with Boston, like I still think we still have to say they're the favorites, even though the Porzingis situation is going to probably hurt them. But I don't know about Jason Tatum, man. Like he's not always fourth quarter type. Like it's not
him and Brown have not been super clutch at times, especially Brown.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, and that was not happening last game. So that's why they're lucky it got into overtime, I say, and that they won it. So that's what my concern is for Boston. Is if there's games where, like you said just now, Brown and Tatum don't play up to the level that they're expected to, and they're still winning in some games. But what an acquisition Drew Holiday has been, right? Because I was watching him do things that was helping them win the game, and it's like this guy is just as big of an acquisition as Porzingis was. They needed a center, I think, always. And that's the problem with Porzingis. He's always injured all the time. And when he's fully healthy, having a great season, when it's time for him to really be counted on and you really need him, then he gets injured, which is what's happened. So apparently he's supposed to be back for game 3. That's what I heard. I don't know what maybe.
Yeah, I heard like 3 or 4 he could come back.
Yeah. Well, when he comes back full strength, he kind of want him to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like what player are you getting?
Yeah, exactly. So let me just jump back to the Knicks because I think the Knicks are probably one of the most exciting NBA teams now, going in the offseason. What are they doing? And because they're literally like a player or two away from winning it all. Like they're there. Like honestly, they really are. They've really taken strides this year, and I think that they could be like a move or 2 away. So what do you expect in the offseason?
Well, they got to re-sign OG Anunoby, which I expect them to do.
Yeah.
They need to resign Isaiah Hartenstein. They're big. From what I've heard, the Knicks can offer him, I think, 4 for 78. And there are a few teams that can offer him more. But I was looking at those teams that at least have the ability to offer him more. One of them's Detroit. I don't see him going to Detroit. I don't think Charlotte can. I don't think he goes there. Like Orlando can. Orlando went after him last time he was a free agent, but they're probably going to prioritize more shooters than opposed to bigs. So I'm not sure. Yeah, and they have Wendell Carter, they have Palos. I'm not sure, if they're going to go after him. I know Toronto has the money to spend. He was very close with Emmanuel quickly, so maybe he'll want to reunite there. So that could be an option. Philly has the money, but after him and Mitch are very close, and after what Embiid did to Mitchell Robinson, I don't see him going there and sitting behind Joel Embiid. I mean, he'll eventually start because Embiid, I'm sure, will get hurt.
Develop his career further, he's not going to want to slow it down. Exactly.
But also, after what Embiid did to Mitchell Robinson, who he's very close with on the team, I don't know why he'd just be like, "Oh, bye, I'm going to go play with Joel Embiid now." So that would be kind of a snaky move. So. Yeah. I think he'll be back with the Knicks, even though Knicks are not the team that can offer him the most money. He's really enjoyed his time with the Knicks. He's obviously a big part of the Knicks, and of the teams that come offer him more money than the Knicks can. The only teams I see him going to are maybe Orlando, but like I said, they not a ton of room there from another side. They're going to prioritize more shooters than guys who are just there for defense and rebounding. Maybe the Toronto Raptors, the Knicks are much closer to winning. Maybe if he really wanted to play with Emmanuel quickly again. And that's really it. Again, I don't see him going to the 76ers just after what Embiid did to his buddy Mitch.
No, he ain't going to go there. Look, if I'm Hartenstein, I realized that my career just took off with the New York Knicks.
Yeah, that's true.
The way that I'm fitting in with this team, the way that they play me, the way that they have expectations of me, what they want from me is working for me in my career. Does that work if I go to, say, Milwaukee, or if I go to Miami, or wherever else wants to sign me? Am I still going to get that same kind of playing style, if you will, just so that I can be still successful? Because he's got to be, he's not the most improved player of the year, we know that, but if he had a most improved team, he'd have to be on there. Like, he excelled this year. I never thought he'd be doing what he did this year. I think he stayed within his limits, but he elevated his play. Like, because you had no Matt Robinson, who was really killing it in crutches all year long until he got injured. And then, the Chua move, that helped as well. Because, so that was good.
That you got out of nowhere.
That too. Absolutely, because he's a good center, too. He's not the tallest, but he can be powerful. He can play the power.
He stepped up when Knicks had some injuries throughout the year. He came in, was giving them like 15, 16, 17, 10, 11 rebounds like every single night.
He always had that ability. I remember he had, not last season, but season before, he was a starting center. We didn't have a center before we acquired Hurdle, but he was a starting center, and he had a 22-20 game, like a 20 rebound, 22-point game. And he was putting up those kind of numbers, and then he got injured. He got injured for like 6-7 weeks. And when he came back, he was slow from injury or whatever have you. And then they acquired Pirtle. And then, this year they traded him. But he has always had that ability. And I remember even in Miami when he was there, I remember his upside down. And I was like, this guy's getting good. And when we got him, I always wish he was a bit taller. But that's my, for the Raptors, that's just what I want from them. I just want them to get a good, big body center. We haven't really had one since Gasol and Ibaka, which we traded. Yeah, we traded Valanciunas to get Gasol. And Ibaka, we traded Terrence to get him. What am I thinking? Why am I forgetting his first name? What was his name again? Terrence
Ross?
Terrence Ross, yeah, exactly. He just retired recently with Phoenix, but I remember he was a slam dunk champ with the Raptors.
Oh, yeah.
And he came up here. But I just think that, I think the New York Knicks are definitely a move away. Who doesn't want to play in New York? And especially with the team depth. Big discredit goes to the coach, Tom Thibodeau.
Oh, yeah,
because look, the New York Knicks were kind of like what the Maple Leafs used to be like in the NHL when they weren't playing well. Everybody was on them, and it was just crazy. But they should have been able to do a lot more sooner, but now they're finally there. And I think that if you're the New York Knicks, you have to go for it this year. Who are some of the big free agents out there that could fit in with the New York Knicks lineup that they could go all the way with? Because, if you're going to move Randall, you're going to get something good from him.
Yeah.
In whatever way you get him, whether you get pieces for him or picks, or you get a body. I think you got to go for body when you're trying to win it. But I don't think you move them. I think that you just see what you got here. You got those other two bigs. I think those are three solid bigs. You got a nice backcourt. You got other great role players. So I don't know who the big names are out there, but I think the New York Knicks should be going after whoever can help them get over the top. They're not far from it, man. The last time they went to the finals was what? In 99.
99,
yeah. That was a straight short year. And that was when they went 8. They were the 8th seed, and they went all the way. And they had Latrell Sprewell.
Oh, yeah.
They had Chris Childs. They had Allen Houston, and they had Patrick Ewing.
I think Ewing was actually hurt for the playoff run.
He was. And when they got to the finals, it sucked. Because as soon as they got to the finals, he was out for all the finals.
Yeah.
And we were about to see, which was always touted to be the biggest big man matchup that everybody wanted to see, was always when Robinson came in the league. It was always Robinson versus Ewing. So we would have seen that, but Tim Duncan was evolving too. So it would have been awesome to see that, but it never happened. And then, they got the title, San Antonio. I'm not saying they got it easy or anything, but it was just a shame because the Knicks went as the 8th seed to the finals. It was a strike short year, so I think that kind of might have been part of the reason, but because they may not have really been an 8th seed, right? It was a 50-game season, something like that, and then they got the finals, and they went 8th seed to finals. And when they got to the finals, they got there, unfortunately, Ewing got hurt for the rest of the playoffs. But he was good in the run. And then if they would have had him, I think they might have had a chance at winning. Honest to God, because they never had that big, really. But if they would have had him, they might have had a chance at winning. So, but yeah, they need to get there, man. They're a team that's important to the NBA. It's just like the Toronto Maple Leafs are in the NHL. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they need to get a championship. So I feel that pain. And I heard you talking some hockey earlier.
Yeah.
Talk some Leafs, but you can tell me what you think about the Leafs, but I think they found their goalie in goal, and I think that if he would have played Game 7, I think we would have been in the second round. It's just
Might
nuts
have.
how whatever the Leafs do. I think I was telling my friend out in Vancouver this is a Canucks fan when the Leafs got ousted. I said I think the Leafs do these things like that. They kind of hurt their own chances. Like Nylander out for 3 games, and then they, also like. You had Matthews up for 2 games, and then Wall's out in the last game. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, they need to figure out what's going on with the training staff because guys shouldn't be getting injured like that. Because if you got all those guys, you're not going to Game 7 having to come back from 3-1. And then you get there because your goalie helps turn around, and then he's out in Game 7. And I'm not taking nothing away from Samsonov. He played a good Game 7, but he's not the guy. But I think Wall's the guy, but I want the Leafs to get still another goalie. And I was saying this to my friend in Vancouver. I'm like, I still want them to get a goalie because goalies are so important. You never have enough depth. And I want them to go after Mazurkin's offer Columbus Blue Jackets because I heard that there's some turmoil between him and the team. And if he's supposed to get moved or he leaves, I would like the Leafs to go after a guy like that. So that's what I'm looking for. I know your Rangers are looking good, man. So
yeah, lost Game 1, but still a long series.
Oh, Kreider is phenomenal for me all year.
Oh my God!
Like every time I looked at him, he was scoring 2 or putting up a goal and a couple of assists. So he's been phenomenal. I think the Rangers they're pretty close. If they're not doing it this year, they're going to do it soon. So that's another team that hasn't been in the final since '94. Right?
They lost in the Cup final in 2014, but '94 was the last year they won.
Oh, wait, who did they play?
The Kings. The Kings.
Oh, they beat the Kings. Right. Wow, eh? But yeah, okay, I remember that. So in '94, they won that. Mark Messier went to New York, and they won it. And they played the Vancouver Canucks, and it was probably the best Stanley Cup ever. It was either that one or the next one that Vancouver played, because that one went to 7 games. They had Pavel Bure in that. They had Mark Messier, right? And you had Richter, and they went 7 games. And I remember them winning it, and it was just huge for New York. And they're like, you guys are real fans down there. You guys do love hockey, and I know the same for the Islanders fans and all that. I know that the whole sport, like even the Devils fans, and then you got Boston, right? And then you got all those teams close by. So like I know like what hockey is down there. So we haven't had a Canadian team win it in 31 years. It was the Montreal Canadiens in 1993, who ousted the Leafs to get to the finals. Who ousted the Islanders to get to the finals, and the Leafs played the Kings, and the Kings ousted the Leafs. But the Leafs should have played the Habs that year and won that cup. But we haven't won a cup up here in that long, and so it sucks that we had to have 2 teams. The last 2 Canadian teams won and eliminate one. So Edmonton's our only chances. I just feel that Edmonton should have won a title a long time ago because they never go out and get a goal. They never go out. They've had 2 of the top 5 best players, some people would say, in the league year after year, and they haven't been able to win it.
I know. With
all kinds of other good players on their roster. So, it's frustrating, right? And it becomes that up here. It becomes that it doesn't matter if you're a Habs fan or a Leafs fan, you're going to cheer for one of those teams later on if one of them's in the playoffs and if one of them's not, you're going to jump to the next team. It's kind of crappy to be in this situation, but yeah. So Edmonton, I don't know if they have a shot at getting the finals, but if they do, I still don't know if they win the cup. But yeah, bring me up to date. Where are we at? And so Dallas, obviously, right? Like Dallas is lucky. They got the Stars and they got the Mavs in the 3rd round. I'm just going to look it up. It's not actually up to date as to where the series are in the NHL.
It's Florida and the Rangers in the East, and on the West side, it's Dallas and the Edmonton Oilers. Dallas and Edmonton play tonight. The first game of the series is tonight for them. But yeah, we're on Talk with Jake. We're talking a little bit of everything with Neil. Of course, Neil calls in all the time. Hasn't been to him in a while, but he's calling in today. But yeah, Dallas and Edmonton should be a very good series. I think Dallas is going to win. Edmonton just doesn't have the goaltending to keep going back and forth. Skinner overall has not been good in the postseason throughout his career, and they went to Calvin Pickard, and they went back to Skinner. So for now, Stuart Skinner is their goalie, but I think Dallas is just a more well-rounded team. Jake Ottinger is definitely a better goalie than Stuart Skinner. So
I think from what I've seen from Dallas all year long, I had a couple of their players on the fantasy team, so I know they're pretty solid. Then I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all. And so
they should. They're definitely the favorites coming out of the West, and obviously they're a better team in Edmonton.
Yeah. So what would you say? You think the Rangers are going to the Cup?
I would like to say that. I picked them to 1-7. Florida's really good, and they're going to be tough to beat. But I am confident that the Rangers can come out in the 7 games.
That's what I'm going for. I have a sweet Rangers jersey. It's from back in the late 90s, I think, like
Ooh.
99. It's, and I know you've probably seen this, and I got it, and it was awesome. I bought it in Toronto back when I used to live in Walford, where I grew up, before I moved to Toronto. And we used to always come down here to get everything that you don't find in your local towns. So I went and I found the Rangers jersey with the Statue of Liberty on the crest.
Oh my God, those are classic.
Oh, I love that, man. I actually wanted the white one. I couldn't find a white one, so I got the blue one. And I used to play hockey, and I used to be a goalie, right? We used to play road hockey. And I wore it one time. We were like diving in the cement and everything like that, right?
God.
And my buddy, who was the other goalie, he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, man, I don't think you want to wear that." No, you're right. But so I almost like damaged it, but it's in good shape still and everything. And,
All right.
but yeah, that's my favorite. I've always liked the Rangers because I actually like all the original things. So my favorite team, though, just so you know, I'm not initially a Leafs fan. I'm actually, as you can see on my symbol, I was initially a North Stars fan. And the North Stars, unfortunately, it kind of sucks that they became the Dallas Stars because I would have loved it if Minnesota was not the Wild like the North Stars.
Yeah.
And because that was my favorite team, and they were awesome. Actually, they actually did the same thing that the New York Knicks did. They did 8 seeds to the finals.
Oh, wow.
They played the Penguins, and the Penguins beat them. That was the first time the Penguins won the title with Mario Lemieux, of course. And then they went back to back. But yeah, it was the North Stars. They were the 8 seed. They went to the Cup that year, and they played the Penguins, and they lost. And then the year after, they were in the league, which was '92, and then they left to Dallas. And I think it was because something was wrong with the arena, Minnesota, and something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but something wasn't happening right, like whether it was arena or whatever it was. And they were in danger of leaving Minnesota, and they did, and they went to Dallas, and they became the Dallas Stars. I remember hearing that they're going to be the Dallas Lone Stars, more fitting to like Texas. Ended up being the Stars, and then when I think they got the expansion team, and like a few years later. I don't think they could have used that name because of Stars already being the name to Dallas. So they're the Minnesota Wild. But yeah, Minnesota North Stars were my favorite team. They were always a great team. They were in the North Division. They were big rivals of the Leafs. And then so when they left the league, I actually ended up having to be forced to be a Leafs fan. And the Leafs were actually successful in those seasons in '92, '93. So the time was good. They had Doug Gilmour, right? Wendell Park and Felix Potvin and Andrechuk. So those guys were like they were a good team back in that era. So then I became a Leafs fan at the right time, but it's frustrating to be a Leafs fan because they always let you down already to the point where I already know that every year that something's going to go wrong. And then they came back from 3-1 in the first round, but sure enough, I remember watching the game. I was with my mom at the grocery store. I had my phone, and so I put the game on my phone. I didn't see anywhere that Wall was not playing in Game 7. And then I saw that, they had Samsonov in there. I'm like, why is Samsonov in there? Did they hurt Wall or something? And then I was trying to figure out what the grocery store. I didn't know that. I heard like Samsonov was starting the game right before the game. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh, Wall's hurt. I was like, wow, that's a tough loss. You agree with me that Wall is the reason they got to Game 7. He turned it around. And I think that they would have won that game if he plays.
They had all the momentum heading into Game 7. And considering what Boston did the year before, they blew a 3-1 lead to Florida. First round, the better team, it was lining up to be the exact same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. Like, that's why I was saying, the Leafs at some point you get let down, being a fan of theirs, something stupid happens, and it is. Like, it's just like, guys, like, what's going on? Like, why is Nylander missing 3 games? Why is, Matthews missing 2 games? Why now all of a sudden is your goalie out? Okay, well, he had hamstring tightness apparently. But I don't know, man. It's just something's not right. It's like you got all those players in that series, you're winning that series, right? I don't think the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I think they're better than a first-round team. And everybody was like hoping that they would have played Florida because it would have been a better matchup, they felt, because they know how Boston does this every single time. But sure enough, they did. And now you see that Florida, like you were saying, Florida's the better team than New York, but you think that New York can beat them. And I agree with that. So, like, that's what I mean. I didn't even think Florida was that. Like, I rather would have had us play Florida in the first round. And I think we could have beat them. So, that's how hockey is. You need a goalie to make sure that you go in the playoffs with a goalie. And that's the trick usually. And all your guys have to be healthy and firing on all cylinders. But, yeah, I'm praying that the New York Rangers go in there and win it. I'd like to see that happen. Obviously, I'd like to, if it's not Edmonton, because Edmonton has a chance, but I think they should have won a couple cups by now already. And like you said, their goaltending situation is always terrible.
Yeah.
Still is.
Yeah, and they threw all that money at Jack Campbell, another from Maple Leafs, and everyone felt like, oh, they solved the problem, and that didn't work.
Huge over here because we were like, we're not giving this guy $5 million a year, and I agreed with that. It's like he is not worth $5 million a year, so yeah, we're not. And then he went to Edmonton, and it looked like Edmonton finally had their goalies like somewhat, because if you're a Leaf fan, you knew that Jack Kemp wasn't completely the answer, but he was better than any goalie that Edmonton had before.
I mean, it's one of those like, all right, is he better than like Cam Talbot and Stuart Skinner? I mean, I guess, but for $5 million a year, like maybe not.
He doesn't do nothing.
Not very good.
I feel bad for him. You don't want to see that happen to anybody, but it's like something obviously was not working for him over there. So that's too bad because like that's all Edmonton needs is a goalie. And I'm not saying that like goalies are just easy to come by because you either draft them and if you sign them, like you're giving them a good contract. I'm thinking like Curtis Joseph coming to Toronto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of a move. Like, and you don't see that all the time. So that's what I mean. Like, our problem is goaltending. I think we have it solved with Wall, but still, do we need to go out and get another guy? Because Samsonov's not the guy.
And I think they need another piece or two on the back end too. Defensively, they are great.
The Leafs?
Yeah, outside Morgan Riley, they don't have a defenseman to me. It's all that.
Thank you. I know. Okay, that's always
all that crazy.
To it. I know that. I always say they need two-step defenseman, but I didn't say it because I know they're not going to go get it. I know that.
That's true. It's like, all right, you need him. If you're not going to get it, you might as well just see we're not going to get it. I know.
You're going to see the Leafs sign defensemen, and you never heard of them. Or Leafs sign.
Problem is they have too much money tied up in all their forwards. They need to trade one of them.
Marner's probably getting one.
I mean, I feel like it might have to because Matthews just signed that big deal, so you're not going to move him. I don't think they can move Tavares. I think his contract's too hard to move, considering how old he is.
I don't know who wants him. What do you like?
Exactly. Like no one's going to want that contract at his age at that number. And then you're looking at Marner or Nylander, one of those two guys. That's really the.
I'm not moving Nylander. He was a 40-goal scorer this year.
Yeah, and like you said, So and to me, they have to move one of them because there's too much money tied up in all those guys. That's why they never go out and sign like a really good defenseman or because they just can't afford it.
You know what I mean? Like they have to do something with that, but I think it's got to be Marner. You've got to trade him, maybe.
Yeah, they need to move somebody.
You're right, and aside from Kelly, that's the only defenseman they have. I know that, and they just never do it. And it's like you have to put the goalie and the defense together. You can't just look at the defenseman, not the goalie, or the other way around. And you
especially for playoff hockey. In the playoffs, you got to be. You got to be good defensively, and you got to have a hot goalie. And Toronto hasn't had that in ages, and that's why they have won one playoff series since God knows when.
Had amazing offense in the last few seasons. Elite among the top in the league, best goal scorer in the league. And too bad he didn't get 70 because I was saying that to everybody at work. I'm like, this is the only thing the Leafs fans are going to be able to celebrate at the end of the year is that if he got 70, and he didn't get the 70. It's just like nothing else. It's like the Leafs are really truly cursed. Honestly, God, there's a guy by the name of Harold Ballard. You probably knew. He took over the team from the success in the 60s when they were winning it all the time. Like, I guess it was like early 70s by the time he took over.
Yeah.
And he never wanted that's when the Russian invasion happened in hockey, and he never wanted any Russians playing for Toronto, which is like racist, if you want to call it that, I guess. It's obviously like biased. Like, it's obviously like, right? So it was like he wouldn't let any Russian play for the Leafs. And there were all these great players that were coming that would have come over. And also, that was a big part of the reason why the Leafs lost, being as competitive as they were. And then he was also he was like an older, stingy dude, it seemed. And he was kind of I don't want to say racist. I don't want to say biased, but that's kind of like the way that he was. And it came out that way in the media. And then he would not, he'd come into problems with players who were successful in the Leafs, and he wouldn't want to give them a certain amount of money and say he rubbed them the wrong way. Things like, you know what I mean? He was very outspoken and things like that. But he was very well respected and whatever happened to you. But it's just like that guy in that era. And then he passed away. And when he passed away, that's when everything started. That was in 92, 93. That's when everything started turning around for the Leafs. And they brought in Cliff Fletcher, and he made all the moves. He got Doug Gilmour. He ripped off the Calgary Flames. He basically got the Doug Gilmour line, the whole basically got a whole line from them for guys that were known, but like there's a guy by the name of Gary Lehman who scored 50 goals somehow one year with the league. So thank God he did. Because if he didn't do that, they would never have been able to pull that deal off. Because he was the one-on-one guy for Gilmore, and when he got there, he didn't do nothing. Like I remember them making fun of him on TSN. They're like, "Oh, Lehman has 2 goals on the season now. He scored 1 in practice today." So it was like, yeah, like that. At least they had this success. And then they kind of got it back in 2000, in the early 2000s, and then they almost got there in 2002, but they got ousted by the Carolina Hurricanes, who went on to the finals, and every guy was injured for us. Matt Sundin got nailed in the mouth with the puck and lost all his teeth and everything, and we only had Gary Roberts and Cujo going for us, and they carried us all the way to the 3rd round, and that's what happened. Sundin did come back, and he actually scored the goal in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals to get us to overtime. But as soon as we got to overtime, like literally like 30 seconds in, Carolina scored. So, and we never won that cup. So, and we never got to the cup. We should have gotten the cup in '99 too, but Buffalo beat us. Dominic Hasek was the guy, and they got there and they lost to Dallas. That's when the foot was in the crease on Belfour, I believe. Or no, sorry, on Hasek. Yeah, and you probably heard about that. But Dallas won the cup with Brett Hulse standing in the crease. And I think, yeah. Yeah,
that's very famous.
Yeah, that was Dallas winning the cup the last time, as a matter of fact, in '99. So, and they were a fairly new team too. So they had just been there for like maybe 5 seasons or so, and they won that cup. So Brett Hull was in that team real quick. But yeah, I mean, like Leaf luck is terrible, and the Raptors even gave them the championship basketball, and they still can't win it.
Yeah,
it isn't luck. Side gave it to Brendan Shanahan. So here, like, for the sake of the Leafs. Championship luck now has been bestowed upon you. Nothing's happened since. So I started to believe with Wall in there. I really did. And I was like, oh my God, I should have known this. Like, as soon as I saw that he was not playing anymore, I'm like, why is he not playing? And it was very secretive about it. You had said, like, you heard about it just before the game started. So, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. I'd rather, be happier about the Raptors. But, actually, we talked about this in the chat the other day. I'll just quickly bring it up. The Blue Jays, obviously, there's now a lot of rumors about the fact that because
Lottie and Bubba Shet like a trade now, apparently.
Is that what he said? He's saying that now?
Apparently, there's a rumor that Guerrero and Bichette might get moved.
Right. So that's what. Okay, so that's just the media over here because they got nothing to write about because they're in last place all the time. And I quite honestly, I got like John Schneider as a manager, but I don't like his management style.
He's not great.
He came in, but he makes questionable moves sometimes. And it could be management upstairs telling him to do that stuff. I don't know, but he's not like I would want John Mattingly to handle the batting order because when he does it right. And yeah, okay, I agree with putting Marshall second now because he's a left-handed bat and he was hot at the beginning of the year. Now he's hitting 212, so you wait till he hits 212 to put him in the second spot. So I don't like that. It's like you should have moved him up there a lot sooner. Schneider's now leading off, which I love David Schneider because he was the minor league player of the year.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of him since last year. I got him in fantasy both years, and so I'm really excited about him. And I'm happy that he's hitting leadoff. But then what do you do with George Springer? What becomes of George Springer? He's in the 6th spot now? You know what I mean? And Buck Martinez, the famous announcer from up here, says, leave him there. It's like, no, he's a leadoff guy. He's
always been a leadoff guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's his mentality. Like, you're not, and that's what I mean. Like, that's what I don't like with this manager. Like, why are you even moving Springer out of the spot? Because of what you're doing around him and in this lineup and what you're doing around Bo and Vlad. It's not working. Like, and Bo shouldn't be hitting behind Vlad. He should be hitting ahead of him, like as always. Like, it should always be. Okay, so I would rather always have a left-hander in that rotation, in that batting order, at the top. And I like a lefty in those first three batters. And if you can ideally go righty, lefty, righty, then yeah, by all means. But that's not going to happen. And there's a player that I would like to trade for, and they did have interest in him at the beginning of the season or in the off season, and I actually picked him up from you in fantasy. It's Jamer Candelario, who plays third base. Yeah. Third base and first. They need third base. I know that they've got, IFK there, but he's not an everyday third. And then
he's not a great hitter.
Yeah. And get him. He's a switch hitter, right? So that solves a lot right there in your lineup. And he's got pop. Like, he just hit on one last night, as a matter of fact. So, like, they were trying to get that guy. And Cincinnati's in last place. So they did make a deal with Cincinnati. They said, Santiago Espinal to them for I don't even know who. I think it might have been minor leaguers or something.
Yeah.
But they had sent Mitch White earlier to San Francisco, and they got cash or something like that back coming. But it's like you should have paired those two guys up, sent them to Cincinnati for Jamer Candelario. But at that point, that would have happened. But now I don't think they would do it because they lost Encarnacion Strand for like at least another month or so. He broke his wrist, so they need him now. But that would have been the time to make a deal like that. So the thing is that the media wants to put that out there that okay, now it's time to blow this team up if they're not winning. But all the Raptors need to do, the Jays need to do is they need to go and make a trade and get a guy who can actually hit left and switch hitter would be ideal because switch hitters are a dying breed in baseball today. They don't exist very often. You don't see a lot of them. Not a row. There might be like 3 or 4 in the majors. Like not even. I don't even know.
There's not that many anymore.
Yeah,
not like he used to be.
Anthony Rushing doesn't switch hit, does he?
Who?
Anthony Rushing does not switch hit, does he?
I don't think so. I can confirm that. Right.
Orioles does, and they surprised me. I'm like, I didn't realize this.
It might be him. It's still that's crazy because there's very few switch hitting catchers.
Yeah, so I don't think it was him because I remember like hearing him on the radio, and they said that whatever the player was for the Orioles, I feel like it was Rutschman. I can't remember. My memory's shady. I was like, that dude switch hits because like that's crazy.
Oh no, you're right, Neil. He does switch hit.
That's great. He's phenomenal. It got to me.
Yeah. He's probably the best catcher in the league.
And he doesn't hit a lot of bunks, but he brings in a lot of RBIs.
Yeah.
He gets well for average.
And he defends, too.
He's the starter in the AL this year. I think he was last year as well. I think we can hope for anybody else in that front, but that's crazy. Like, and that's what I mean. The whole point of a switch hitter in the lineup can do so much for you. Yeah. So, like, that's the player that I'm targeting if I'm the Blue Jays. Like, I don't know what we even got for Santiago Espinal, but that would have been a good enough deal. You say, okay, hey, we got to get rid of Mitch White, who was supposed to be the 5th starter on this team last season and factor in the rotation this season. And then they ended up moving him to San Fran for, I think, cash. And they could have just paired him up with Santiago Espinal, who was an all-star 2 seasons ago. Don't ask me how he just got hot at the right time.
Yeah.
I could have solved that nice. Like, here's an all-star and a pitcher. We need Jamer Candelario. And they were fine. And that's what it is. We just don't have enough lefties. Then the pressure falls on Bo and Vlad, and they keep mixing them up all over the place. And Vlad's doing well with his hits. Like the thing about people, they don't understand that if Vlad's not hitting a ton of home runs and he's still getting his RBIs, he's still hitting 280 plus. So that's the thing. Like, and Bichette's starting to go well. He had a 4-hit game on Monday, and I think he hit a home run last night, and he had another hit. So he's getting going. The greatest loss, Jake, that the Jays suffered in this offense was letting Semien go to the Texas Rangers. He's already won a championship.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, that was that bad.
He was the glue guy. He was the guy that made everybody else so much better just because, like, everybody from Springer down to, like, I believe he hit second. Springer, Semien, Bichette, Vlad, and then Teoscar Hernandez. Yeah,
it's not, and that trade to give up him and Gabriel Moreno is going to haunt them for years.
Dude, when that happened, I was like, okay, what else are we getting? Like,
that's right for Dalton. Even at the time, I was like, for Dalton Varsho, was it really worth it?
I don't know. I'm like,
it also hasn't worked out.
We don't. I was like, that's the thing. Like, what do the management and Jays know that we don't about him? Because I didn't see nothing special. I watch a lot of theirs.
He's a weird player, Varsho.
He is.
He was a catcher, and then now they like moved him when he was in Arizona. Like they moved him to the center field because he's got good speed. So they want him to catch his whole life, and like he's got power. Doesn't throw a lot of average. He's just one of the weirdest baseball players I've ever seen. It's very odd.
Yeah, he's all over the place, and I agree with that. So I would tell you that the thing about him is that the Jays just were desperate for a left-handed bat. We all knew that. But
they were.
Yeah.
Why should he be that desperate? He's a generational catcher and another 30 homer threat.
Yeah. So Rogers, this is how Rogers is. They had the lead last year. We saw in the offseason, every time there was a big name, last year I was getting surprised. Like even MLB TV was like, the Blue Jays are the front runner against Soto. And it's like, go get him then. Well, there's no certainty that he's going to sign back with us. So what? You're going for it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then get these opportunities. Like, then apparently, like, Bellinger was the favorite.
He was linked to for a while. There came a point I was like, all right, he's got to sign with them at some point, right? Because they're linked to him like since the start of the free agency, along with the Cubs.
And it's like, yeah, we could use them. Like, I know he's only hitting, I think he's only hitting like 220, but he's got 7 bombs and I think 25 RBI or whatever, right? So, like, he's going to improve his average eventually. But, like, you needed a left-handed power bat. Now, so you went and got Joey Votto, which is great. We love that. He's from Toronto, and we know that he's still got some pop in the bat and can use him, like, in that role. But the guy comes, first pitch he sees in spring training, hits a home run. And I'm not sure how much I believe this, but then after he went in the dugout, he slipped on a bat that was on the ground, and he rolled his ankle, and he's been out ever since.
Oh, my God.
And he just started getting the baseball activities last week. So I'm like,
oh, wow.
okay, like, but, like, honest to God, I'm like, they got Daniel Vogel back, who they hardly play. They put that guy in there more.
I mean, Vogelback's not very good, but, you know.
Exactly.
It's a left-handed, it's a left-handed bat.
You feel me? Exactly. I'm not a fan of him either. I was just gonna say I was upset. I'm like, why are you signing that?
The problem is he literally like if they put a left-hand reliever in like the 6th inning, at that point you'd have to take him out because he cannot hit left-handers.
Exactly, and it was such a desperate move, and it's like the Jays were linked to Jock Peterson. I'm like, okay, fine, go get Jock Peterson. They didn't get Jock Peterson. The guy's smashing it right now. He's got 5 homers, 22.
He's like having a good year.
His OBP's like 389. It's like. So that guy, if Arizona continues to suck this year, he'll get moved at the deadline for sure. You know, so like it's like make a trade now. Like get a lefty in your lineup. Are you waiting for Votto? Because if so, where's Votto at? Like and like
also he's almost 40 years old.
Exactly. I was just gonna say he's pretty much done, right? But he still last year, I think what they're looking at is that last year he still had 14 pops and 32 RBIs.
Yeah.
32 ribs and the 14 pops. I think that's what they want out of him.
That's what they were going for. They didn't care about his average. They just wanted some power on the bench.
And he was hitting 212. So it's like, okay, fine. Like, then get him up here. Like, because you need another, like, you need this guy. And it's like, and then the fact that they went and got IKF, okay, fine. He's a great defensive player, but he's not really a third baseman. And he's
really.
Yeah. So
he's a utility guy, but yeah.
And then when they went and got Turner, I'm like, okay, so I guess Turner's going to hit third base. That's not bad. And he doesn't play no third base.
I know.
Yeah.
So Lafayette's more of a shortstop.
Yeah, exactly.
He can play third very well, but he's more of a shortstop.
He came up protected. He was a top prospect shortstop. I remember him then.
Yeah.
He kind of went around a couple teams.
We went to the Yankees.
It's like you still need a third baseman. Go, like, you're going to have to make a trade with Cincinnati to get Jamer Candelario. Like, because who else are you going to get? Like,
yeah.
And the thing is Encarnacion Strand being out, like, they're not going to do that deal until he comes back. So it's like, start talking to them now, so when Encarnacion Strand comes back, you can get him. Like, because you need those 3 things. If you get a switch hitter, that's even better than just having a left-handed bat. You're going to be able to use that as a Swiss knife, and then basically he can play third and first. So even if you're bringing him off the bench and you need to put him in the game, you're flipping the lineup around pretty easy with a guy like that, or you're putting him in the line, being able to move him around. Like, you got all kinds of options, you know? So that's what they need to do. The Mets, I think JD Martinez is a great pickup, man. So
yeah, the Mets are playing well. He's one of the only guys that's really hitting. He's played well so far.
He's been great for them, yeah. So considering it was like what they signed it like 2 days before the season.
Yeah, he had start the year in the minors because he hadn't faced any like live hitters. Then he got hurt, so it took him a little while to get up here. But he's hitting 300 right now. Yeah,
and that's the thing about Alonso that kind of frustrates me. Like, I thought in the first year he hit like 252 or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's been like the last several seasons he's hitting low 200s all the time. Like,
he just I've tried to defend him at all time, but I'm just running out of things to say. Like, he's just getting worse and worse and worse every year.
He still has his power, but it's his average, right? That's what I.
Yeah, he only hit 217 last year. He's hitting like 230 right now.
230, right? Okay, so give me 240 plus, and I'll be happy. You give me 240 plus and 320 plus on your OBP, I'll be happy because his home runs and his RBI is going to be there.
He's got 11 homers right now.
Yeah, he'll get 40 home runs. He'll get 35 plus home runs for sure. And there should be 100 RBIs behind that. It's just that we need you to hit for average, buddy, because you're the biggest hitter on this team. I'm like, Lindor, how's he doing well? Is he not?
He's struggling. He's hitting like 190 right now. Yeah, he's struggling.
He was much better last year. I know he didn't hit well for average, but the other numbers are there.
Yeah, he bit of a slow start last year. Then he really came on. He had a great year. The year before where he was very good, but this year he's been. I mean, he usually the first month or two he usually comes out. He kind of comes out limping a little bit, but and then usually like towards the end of May and June when he picks up, and then by the end of the year you're like, oh, his numbers are actually right around what his career has been. But like he was never this bad. Like he's been like at times he was hitting like 230 at this point. At one point last year he was hitting like 205. His OPS was like 680, and then he picked it up, but he's hitting like 195. It's really bad.
His rookie season, I think he hit 252.
Yeah.
I know he hit well enough. And then all of a sudden, as the years went along, his power numbers stayed where they were. But it's like, he had a contagion with his power numbers, homers, RBIs, and slugging. But it was like, you need to hit for average because, like, he's the pinnacle hitter in that lineup. So, like, I don't know if you have to get maybe a hitting coach or whatever you got to do to get that straightened out.
Yeah, I don't know because like it's like everybody they have so many high priced stars in that lineup and none of them are doing anything. They're all not. No one's hitting right now. It's weird.
It's the same situation over here. Like we have, we got good talent here too, and like especially Springer, he's in only 192, and even though he was hot too, he was still hitting under 200. And he had a home run and he had a couple of hits in one game. Like he's had a good stretch in the last 2 games, but it's like he's still hitting well under. And that's what I had a problem with when they were signing Springer. Like I like Springer, he's a great player, but I was like, you're not going to get that Houston Springer, especially over that length of the deal. Like, and he's going to start to his career's going to start to like he's going to still be good, but his numbers going to start to like decrease as it goes. And that's what's happened. They're paying him a lot of money, and now it's the same problem they had last year. I don't like John Schneider, to be honest with you. I'd rather than just say, look.
Yeah, he's not great.
No.
They should have fired him at the last year, honestly.
That Rowe was telling me because he's a Dodger fan, he's in the league. He was like, oh, yeah. Because I was saying, I'd rather just give it to Mattingly. And he was like, oh, he wasn't great, for the Dodgers. I'm like, yeah, but he was for the Miami Marlins, and he won the Coach of the Year there.
Yeah. And he's been an okay manager.
Yeah. He's
been nothing special, but... At least,
the answer, but I'm willing to just throw it over to him because we need
for the rest of the year, maybe he'll spark my team. A lot of times that's happened. I mean, that's what happened with Schneider. They had whoever the hell, Boldelli, who
they had what's his face there, the Spanish guy,
yeah, from Tampa. Was it Boldelli? No, that's Minnesota. They had the other guy from Tampa.
The heck was his name? I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah, let me plug it in like. Yeah, I remember in like Montoyo, Tony Montoyo, and he wasn't doing. Yeah, so and they axed him because they were underperforming, and they promoted Schneider. No one knew who the guy was, and then they turned it around, and then and they kept him along, and it seemed like the right move. I mean, they played so much better under Schneider than they did with Montoyo, but then he's the kind of guy. I think Schneider is similar to Manning. Like, all right, if he can be a really good bench coach, and if your team needs a spark, maybe you can fire the manager and promote him. And for that, like 1 year, he might do a lot of good things. But after that, you gotta either move on or tell him you gotta go back to being a bench coach because long term he's not a great manager.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is too is that at this point now you've seen Schneider enough, and you should have been going into the season saying, okay. Like, if it's not clicking by, like, second week of March or third week of March, like, when we get halfway through March, we're going to have to, like, if we were expecting to compete, we have to do something.
Yeah.
Because now it's even
at this point, I mean,
now it's like...
And they're in a brutal division, too.
Exactly. And now it's like, okay, now you got to trade your 2 best stars. It's like, no, we don't, actually. We need to actually get the guys that are managing this team to put them in the right positions, like, in terms of in the holding lineup and just go from there. Like, honest to God, Jake, when I'm seeing Schneider, I love Schneider, but when I'm seeing Schneider and Marshall as my 1 and 2 hitters, like it's just a sign of how south this lineup's going. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what it is. They need to get going. I think you have to make a trade. I don't think it's trading Bichette or Guerrero. I think it's trading for, like I say, a Jamie or Candelario, a guy that can play third base regularly, who is a third baseman, or can play first if you need him to. Or he can be a DH, or he obviously comes off the bench. He's a switch hitter. He helps you that way. Like, there's so many things that he can do for your lineup, especially for Jay's knee. They need to fill the hole at third base. I don't care if IKF's a great defensive player or not. He's not your everyday third baseman, in my opinion. And I think you need to get a guy, and he could be that guy, Jamer Candelario, and they need to do that. And then, like I say, it could also add relief to the other guys. You give Vlad a day off at first. Put in Jamer, you can sometimes put Jamer at the DH spot if he's not playing third, and then he's switch hitting too. So if he switch hit, that's such a luxury to have a guy who can switch hit. So that's what I mean. I don't think that there's probably no more than 4 guys for real in the majors who can switch hit. I don't even know other than Adley Rutschman and Jamer Candelario who else can switch hit.
There's not a whole lot of switch hitters like there used to be.
No, it's a dying breed. It's a definitely dying breed, and it's too bad because soon you won't see it in the game anymore because you know what I mean. It's like knuckleballers, right? They died off too. So there's one knuckleballer in the majors. I can't even think of who it is. There's one. I think there's one guy, and I think he's on Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. That's a really, 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 really
Yeah, there's very, very few. I mean, obviously, there was Tim Wakefield in Boston for all those years. Rest in peace to him. Yeah. R. Dickey, who he won slap at the Mets. He had Carson, who was in Toronto for a while.
Yeah, we traded him off. We got him off you guys.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Darnell and Syndergaard, and then
me and Darnell in that deal. And there was a pitcher too.
Syndergaard.
That's right, Syndergaard. That's right. And Darnell came out of that deal. Darnell was supposed to come into the majors as this beast of a catcher.
Yeah.
He didn't become that, but he's been a decent catcher.
Ever since he left the Mets, he's become a good player.
And he always has that hot stretch. Yeah, he always has that hot stretch in the beginning of the season. He just goes on for 6-7 games, and he puts up 5 home runs into it. He just has those big hot stretches. But he's basically, I would say, I think he was the headliner of that deal. He got Syndergaard out of it.
Yeah.
Syndergaard was with the Angels for a minute. I don't think he's in the majors anymore.
He's not now.
He's gone now. He's not even on the majors, in the major leagues. He's not even on the major league roster.
Yeah, he was with the Dodgers last year. It was horrible, and he was also with Cleveland.
He got traded to the Dodgers. That's right. And then nothing happened with him ever since, eh?
Yeah, he's not in the league anymore.
Yeah, he's done. You know what? Let me tell you quickly. I have to say, Alek Manoah. And
what happened to him? Oh my God!
It's a great start right now, but you know what? I'm not sold yet because he hasn't done it 3 times in a row. So he hasn't had 3 quality starts like that in a row.
Yeah.
Alek Manoah, who it looked like he turned into Ricky Romero, if you remember Ricky Romero, guy that was a good starter for the Blue Jays. He seemed like he was going to be the second best starter by Noy Holiday. He was a solid starter. He had an all-star season, and then he never ever could pitch ever again. He just kind of went down south, and no matter how much they keep trying to bring him back, just kept getting lit up. It looked like that was going to be what was going on with Alek Manoah, but the fact that he's figured it out is a huge sign. I'm not saying that Alek Manoah is Roy Halladay, but I'm just going to say it. Roy Halladay was a great pitcher, and he was amazing when he came up to the majors. In his second game ever that he pitched for the Blue Jays on the final day of the season, he almost had a no-hitter against Detroit, 8 2/3. Yeah, and so I remember that. This guy's going to be the next best player that we have, next pitcher. And we had Carlos Delgado, Sean Green, and so I'm like, okay, now this guy.
Those teams, they had a phenomenal team. Holiday and all the guys. Yeah, they were freaking phenomenal.
You went into Cy Young's in, 3 World Series in St. Louis. So, and just going back quickly to the situation with Ricky Romero, that guy should have been my number 2 guy to Halladay. And Halladay went off some story about how he kind of went through that too, and then they sent him to the minors. So he came up like this great pitcher, then he really got in the funk, and then they sent him to the minors. They went to the minors, and he never went back ever again. But whatever he fixed down in the minors, he never looked back, and he became better for it. And I'm hoping that's what Manoah did. Because he was down there for a long time. I actually thought the Jays were about to give up on him because he was going to be part of that Soto deal, and that was the only way I think we could have done it to get him, and it never happened because they probably weren't sure that Alek Manoah was going to be that great of a pitcher. But look at San Diego now. They went out and got Luis Arraez. And
they got him from Miami.
Right, yeah, and they ended up getting also, who else did they pick up? Dylan Cease.
Even
though they lost some big players, they're still trying to stay competitive. So that's good to see, right? So, I don't even know what they gave Miami to get Luis Arraez, but, I think that they're still trying to compete. But that's what I mean. I would like to see the Jays continue like that, make those kind of deals, make the piece deals. So, we'll see. I think the Mets, it's unfortunate. Every year they have great pitching. This year probably not as good, but if they would have had that pitching they normally would have, then they're okay. But their offense has to be figured out. I think they're kind of the same. Both Bichette's dad, Dante Bichette, I remember growing up watching him play. Yeah, he was a decent outfielder, and then he was with the California Angels, I remember. And he wasn't really a great player, but when he got to the Colorado Rockies, and he became amazing. He started hitting like mad bombs. And then he came over here when, like literally, I think it was 2 or 3 seasons ago that he left. But he wasn't the hitting coach, but he was the special hitting advisor. And these guys were killing it. They were like with his dad over here. Oh my God! So that was another loss. So Semien and Bichette, those two guys, Bichette's dad and Semien, were 2 major losses. But the Jays decided to just, okay, we're going to walk with those guys and say, no, you can't. Actually, you need both those guys. So I'd like to see that happen. I mean, I don't know where the Mets are, but I think the Mets, like, they're just like the Jays. They're just a few tweaks away. But obviously, I think with you guys, who's your top pitcher right
now? It's probably either Sheldon or Luis Severino is probably the guys that have performed the best.
Okay. I saw that he's making a comeback and he's doing it with the Mets. He's always been a decent pitcher. Good for him and good for them. Because that's unfortunate. They always pride themselves on their pitching.
I know.
And the one time their pitching's like needed to get a few band-aids here and there, their offense isn't holding it up. And they have actually enough offense to be able to do it. Like even Marte, like you know what I mean? You got those are your 3 guys. I would say Lindor, right? Alonso, Marte, and JD Martinez. That's enough. Around that, you can get enough offense generated to win if you could get your pitching. But here, Edwin Diaz is no longer the closer.
Yeah, I think he'll get the job back eventually, but right now he's struggling, so they're gonna go in by committee right now, but he's having some confidence issues or something like that.
Okay, because the Altavino was on the waiver wire, suggested that he can get some save chances. So I was like, what's going on with Edwin Diaz? So
yeah,
I think that's I just think for the Mets, and they just hit some hard luck again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but. They're a team that can fix themselves quickly if they want to. Where are they standing right now in the standings?
I think they're 21 and 28.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. So they're in the same situation as the Jays.
Yeah,
it's not great, but it's not like in the.
Toronto's got a much better squad than the Mets. Toronto going in was probably a playoff team. I think the Mets were going to make a playoff team this year.
You don't think the Jays will be, or you think they will?
No, I said going into the year, I thought Toronto would be a playoff team, but the Mets, I never really expected anything.
Oh, got you. Yeah, okay, I heard you. Okay, I got you. Yeah, so, yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that the Jays, I don't know if they're going to make it. I don't think.
Now, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Going in, I thought they'd be much better.
Boston's a good team, but I don't think they're better than Jays. And Tampa's a good team, but I don't think they're better than Jays. But definitely New York and Baltimore are. And the Jays would be looking at a second wild card at this point. So, yeah, they would need to go on a serious tear. They need to make a trade. And they need to, because now our rotation is actually fixed. If you've got Manoah doing what he's doing. Because Manoah did 2 back-to-back starts of 7-inning shutouts. And if he can do a third one, I'll be impressed because that's the Manoah that we had when he was an All-Star. And think of we had him last year the way that he was initially. If we would not have lost him, we might have gone further. But that's, our rotation's pretty solid, I would say, right from start to finish. With Gosman, Bassett, Berrios, who's been on fire all year long. The first 2 guys I mentioned have shown some signs of brilliance, not consistently, but they have. And in recent times, they've pitched well. And then you also got Kikuchi, who's had great starts. I remember one was 8 and a third, 2 starts back. He's been pitching really well. And then if you got Manoah doing his thing, then you've got really 5 solid starters. And then you got some good depth. But I don't like the fact that we lost Jordan Hicks last year because I would like to have another guy who could close that relieves Romano, takes pressure off him. Because I don't like how Schneider uses him either. I know sometimes he's like, oh, he's got to get some work. And he puts him in these odd situations. And it's just like, oh, and then he doesn't let him finish the game and stuff like that. So I want to see a manager who understands the players and knows how to put them in the right roles and when to put them in and take them out and not destroy their confidence. That's kind of what I feel is happening. I don't think that Schneider's purposely trying to do that. I can see that maybe for him, too, he's looking at it like, oh, I got to do something because we're not winning, and tries different things. But it's like when you start mixing it up too much. I'm from the Cito Gaston era when the Blue Jays won the back-to-back World Series. I remember Cito Gaston. He was just like, and I know baseball's changed a lot, but it was consistency. And with the batting order specifically, he had the defensive lineup as well. And the guys that filled in would know who they were, and they knew their roles going into the season. They would know they'd be the fill-in guys, and they play every 4th day, maybe twice a week. And those are guys like Ed Sprague and Pat Tabler and Derek Bell. Those guys used to fill in, and they're all great. And when they did in the World Series, Derek Bell got on base and Sprague hit the 2-run home run against Atlanta for us to come back and win. And if that doesn't happen, we don't win that first World Series. So that's what I mean. Like, we have players like that, but the thing about John Schneider is he thinks he can make some of them everyday players when they shouldn't be. Like, it took him forever to figure out that David Schneider should have been hitting every game. You know what I mean? And then also, like, to figure out, like, hey, Ball is our hottest hitter. He's got the most home runs. Put him in the 2 slot. Maybe that helps Springer. If he would have done that sooner, maybe it helps Springer. The other thing, too, people don't realize is, like, as a hitter, it depends on who's hitting in front of you and who's hitting behind you. The pitchers that you're going to see, right? So that's why I said Semien was a huge loss. Because when Semien was the number 2 guy, and then you went Springer, Semien, Bichette, and Vlad, like, the pitcher was never getting a break. And then you had Teoscar Hernandez by hand in, and then you had Lourdes Gurriel. Like, those guys are all great hitters. And so the pitchers never had a break. So that's what I mean. Now they do have a bit of a break because these guys are in slumps, and then they're mixing up the lineup too much. So.
Yeah, the role of the manager in baseball's kind of gone away, and it's a shame because the teams that have the most success, a lot of times their managers are very good in-game managers when it comes to making decisions in-game. But then a lot of teams, they just cycle through managers because, the GMs try and, kind of manage the game for them. And a lot of times it doesn't work. Like, that's why I think Aaron Boone has been able to get the Yankees over the hump because he just, he overuses his bullpen in the first half of the season, doesn't let stars go deep enough into games, and as a result, their bullpen guys blow up their arms by, the month of July and August. And, and a lot of times these guys, when it comes to making the lineup, they, the GM always has to help. But the managers that, the teams that let their managers just kind of do their thing, those are the teams that usually have the most success. But unfortunately, the role of the manager in baseball has kind of gone away.
And one real quick thing about the Yankees is, how about Luis Gil?
He's been phenomenal. He said he had 14 strikeouts in his last start. That was crazy.
Right? That's a pitcher that I think everybody's going to have to start watching. I think he could emerge as the best pitcher. I know Cole's coming back, but that guy could be the dynamite pitcher in that lineup. That could really lead them because apparently, because I had him on the roster and then I dropped him from it and I brought him back. He has an amazing fastball that can't be touched apparently, and he couldn't figure out his makeup, and he was walking like 6 or 7 guys a game, and then he figured that out. And he's been like lights out since. I think he's had like 4 quality starts in a row. And like you said, he had the 14 strikeouts. And he's just been putting up mad strikeouts because he's got a serious fastball that no one can touch. So I think that guy, as we get into the summer, I think he can really lead the Yankees. And I think the Yankees could end up getting past Baltimore for first place in the East.
Yeah, and by the way, we got somebody else called in. So if you want to join in, be my guest. But yeah, Gil's been pitching really well. And the Yankees, they've been able to, they've held together, even without Garrett Cole. I think they had the best ERA in the league.
And Garrett Cole is coming back shortly, I think in a couple weeks.
Yeah, he's shooting for June. Yeah, it's only the 23rd of May.
They've been having him on the mound, and he's been tossing here and there. So that guy's coming back. I mean, you got him on your roster too, so you'll be waiting for him to get back in action.
Yeah.
You get him in there with Luis Gil doing his thing, and that's what I mean. I think the Yankees can get themselves in the first place. I think they can. I like Baltimore. Baltimore has so much great young talent.
Especially offensively.
Right? And they're going to be in the market for a closer. They're going to be looking for some relief help. I know they got Kim Brown, but they're probably going to want some help there. They might also be looking for another starter. So I think Baltimore's still looking at a couple pieces that they feel they need to be able to win it all. I think they have a shot, but I think the Yankees are a little bit better built for that. And then when you've got like Soto, I don't think that he's not going to sign back there. I think that, when you've got guys like Judge hitting around you, right? And like Giancarlo Stanton was hitting home runs just like you, but then again, he's still hitting his like usual 200. So if that guy can get back to where he used to be in Miami, man, like the Yankees would be just steamrolling everyone. Like seriously.
Yeah, but we got our other friend here's got his hand up. So first of all, introduce yourself. Welcome to Talkin' Sports with Jake.
Is you holding the space later on tonight? I'm bad.
Oh, you're good. Not tonight. We're live on Talkin' Sports with Jake right now. We're talking some sports with Neil. But you got anything to say? Go ahead. Floor's yours.
I'm calling. I'm gonna say right now. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Dallas. versus Boston. That's all I'm saying.
All right, that's very possible. You know, Dallas took game one, and you know they were down. I think they were down 4 with like 3 minutes left, and they came back. I think they went on a 10-3 run late in that game, so they on the road too. So that was big to steal game one in Minnesota, and obviously Celtics should beat the Pacers. You never know. Those two guys, Tatum and Brown, always clutch this was, and Boston, but Dallas took game one. I picked Minnesota in 6, but Dallas took game one on the road, which is big. Obviously, you got Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in one backcourt is very tough to beat. But all right, guys, I think I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna close this out right now. Thank you guys. Obviously, Neil, you were on for a while, and our other friend, thank you for joining me. But I will be back tomorrow. But until next time, so long. Have a great day.